Right, this is going to be about 5 empires that no longer exist, but that are interesting and that I can talk a little bit about and just talk about a little bit when they were founded, a little bit when the sort of context of when they were ended, who ended them, and so on and so forth, and then what countries those empires then later became and which they were encapsulated and the effects they had on those lands as well. So yeah, I'll just pick whatever bits that I want to talk about them basically. So we'll start off with the sick man of Europe, as it liked to be called by World War One, when it was starting to come to an end. This is the Ottoman Empire, which lasted nearly 700 years, from 1299 to 1922, when Kemal Ataturk turned the Ottoman Empire into Turkey as we know it, more similarly as we know it today, into the Republic of Turkey. Of course, him and his young Turks helped bring down the Sultan and the Ottoman Empire. Even though the Ottoman Empire was pretty much, as I say, people called it the sick man of Europe at that time. So it was on its way out, and of course the first sultan's kind of similar, was Osman the First, and you had, and he of course in 1299 founded it, and then the last ruler you had was Mehmet the Sixth. Yeah, so the Ottomans, of course, hugely important, and there was a lot of countries that were today that were a part of that. Of course, mainly the main bit of it was, of course, Turkey as we know it today. The main part, Ottoman Turks were the ones who ruled it, who came from Central Asia and then moved into Anatolia, and that's when they started to really become like Turks, Turkish, I guess, as we know Turkish people today to be. Of course, you have Turkic people that are from Central Asia as well, which are and the Turks are a part of that. So the Ottoman Empire was a bit, as I say, big empire, and encapsulated obviously Turkey, a large part of the Balkans. Greece, of course, was a part of it. Most of Yugoslavia, Bosnia. I was going to say Albania. Albania wasn't Yugoslavia, but Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire. And that is why Bosnia and Albania are Muslim countries, because of the Ottoman influence, both in the people and culturally. A lot of these Balkan countries took in some of the Ottoman culture, and 1821 the Greeks got independence declared independence from the Ottoman Empire. So they were kind of early on, and then the rest of them all kind of got it all at different points. I can't really go into all. I just wanted to talk a little bit about each. So Ottoman Empire. You also had the Ottoman Palestine as well, which then after World War One, Treaty of Sèvres, became under a British mandate, Palestine, and then you had Lebanon, went to France as well, and Lebanon went to France. Syria became part of the French. Egypt also became part of the British sphere of influence as well. So you had a lot of different things going on. Bulgaria, of course, this was also under Ottoman rule. I mean, a lot of countries were under Ottoman rule. A lot of them, like Bulgaria, Serbia, etc., were not, and Greece, of course, were trying to get out of it, basically. And yeah, so the Ottoman Empire, I think, it's certainly an interesting one. It lasted for a long time. It certainly had a lasting effect on but the Balkans, definitely, especially as well as the Middle East and today's Turkey as well. A lot of the culture comes from then, and then of course also from time of the Turkish Republic as well. Some say they're trying to go back to more Ottoman times now, but we'll see. So next we have the Holy Roman Empire. This is another one that lasted for a long time and was ended by everyone's favorite Frenchman or Corsican, Bonaparte, at in a number of and yet again, this empires were a thing even by the middle of the early start of the 19th century. These kind of empires were starting to die out, really. I mean, like, the Ottoman Empire was going downhill, like you could say then, and then definitely the Holy Roman Empire was on its last legs by the time Napoleon came along and effectively ended an empire that had almost been around for nearly 1,000 years. And yeah, I mean, decisive victory for the French at Battle of Austerlitz, 1805, sorry, what am I on about? And then that led to, of course, the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire, and then it became the Confederation of the Rhine, and that only lasted until 1815 or so, and when Napoleon got beat at Waterloo. So, and then you basically things started to move towards German nationalism, and all sorts started to build up. Of course, you had all the German states as well before that, and then German Empire as well. I could have done German Empire, I didn't think of that. But I wanted to make it, maybe I'll go on to the more slightly more recent empires. So the Holy Roman Empire started in 962 and was ended, as I say, by Napoleon in 1805, the Battle of Austerlitz in modern-day Czech Republic. The Holy Roman Empire, if you don't know, it was basically German, and it didn't really have a lot to do with the Romans, other than that they were Catholic, I guess. And it did have about half of Italy, but definitely by this point in 1805, it was basically just Germany. Although if you look at it, it says it was little bits of Poland and stuff, but that was all land that was then later given to Poland and stuff and Italy. I mean, yeah, at that time even they had the tiny bit of Italy, but that was South Tyrol, so that's all land that you could arguably say should be German, Austrian, whatever. So yeah, Holy Roman Empire, didn't need to go on too long about it. And then Holy Roman Empire, we go to should we go Austria-Hungary? All right, little bit more recent and of a similar but different as well. Austria-Hungary, 1867 it began and ended in 1918 after World War One. Of course, Austria were on the losing side in this, and of course you had the Archduke, the Austrian Archduke, who was killed Franz Ferdinand, who was killed in Sarajevo. It was a part of that. So, and you could say Austria-Hungary was also starting to crack apart. Like as with a lot of these empires, they all seem to crack apart at some point, because especially towards this time, I mean, nationalism in a lot of these different countries is starting to become, self-determination and stuff. It's what they wanted. And then after World War One and after World War Two, you saw a lot of these things, and you started seeing countries starting to become nation states and all this stuff. And of course you had not that long before 1918, you had Germany and Italy in 1870, 1871. unification of those countries. And yeah, it's becoming the hot new thing to be a, a sovereign country. So when you had the Czechs who wanted who were fighting for their rights within the empire there. Basically, they wanted the Czech language to be seen as on the same level as the German language, as you had a lot of German speakers in what's now Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, and in Prague and everything. You had a lot of German speakers, and you weren't on the same class. You didn't have the same opportunities if you spoke Czech. I mean, some of these Czechs would have spoke German as well, but it's like the German were like the ruling elite, kind of. So, and then, of course, Austria-Hungary became Austria, as we know it now, without the South Tyrol. They lost the South Tyrol, as I was saying before, to Italy. That was part of what Italy got after World War. Of course, you had the treaties here. You had Treaty of Saint-Germain, which was the treaty with Austria after World War One, and you had the Treaty of Trianon, which was after that was after after Paris peace treaties. Of course, you had Versailles, and then you had these other treaties with the specific countries. Like I said, Treaty of Sèvres with Turkey, and you had Trianon for Hungary, because they were trying to split them apart, so you couldn't have one treaty for each of them. And of course, you had Hungary, and then you had also Romania. A good bit of Romania became Romania. A good bit of what was part of Austria-Hungary then became Romania. And there's a map of this in which you see all the different groups here. You've got Transylvania there, which is largely at the time in 1910, 1911, the different ethnic groups. Okay, you got down the Balkans, you got Bosnians, you got Croats and all that. Fine, yeah. It gets more complicated when you get towards Transylvania, hence why this went to Romania. But you also then, by cutting into it there, you've got Cluj, Brasov, and Timișoara, which all is now a part of Romania. But then you see it's got it on the map that there are a significant proportion of Hungarians in Romania at the time. And you had Galicia there, which was mainly Ukrainian, and you had Poles there as well. In Moravia, you had these German speakers on the outside of Bohemia and Moravia, with Czechs in the middle, and that was part of what Hitler was doing with the Lebensraum and trying to unite the German speakers. First, of course, when he was trying to get the Sudetenland, that was an excuse that there were German speakers there, you need them. And then, of course, he invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia, which didn't have German speakers in, really. So, But then, yeah, this kind of stuff's quite interesting. I quite like, and you have splatterings of Germans, old Germans, old Saxon Germans in Hungary as well at the same time. I actually did a bit about this in university. I remember this was one of the interesting things. And then you've got the Tyrol there. As I said, I'm very upset about the Tyrol. It was a tough one to blow, and then of course you got the Slovenes there, so you got all these places that broke up into the different countries from Austria-Hungary. So I'm amazed that it lasted so long. And then of course you've got Austria that basically went from being a big power to a small alpine country, really. It's like after World War II, they tried to make they thought one of the plans was to make Germany just a just a big farm, really. Just make it all fields. It's like we've had the Nazis just clear it all out. We'll just have a big farm where Germany is. It'll all just be farming land, pastures. It'll be beautiful. And I mean, Austria basically became that to some extent. Place where people go skiing now. It's a good country, great place. But you see, it used to be a big power, and now it's not. And so we'll go on to the next one. Next empire. How many we're done? We're done Austria-Hungary, Holy Roman Empire, Ottoman. We need two more. Two more empires. Byzantine Empire. Now, what to say? Of course, the Ottomans ended the Byzantine Empire, also known as the Eastern Roman Empire, the eastern half of the Roman Empire. Of course, founded by Constantine the Great in the 4th century, so like 330 AD. Of course, Constantine renamed the city Constantinople after himself. This was his great project to make like a second Rome in a sense, and what he ended up leaving was the Byzantine Empire that lasted for over 1,000 years. And as I say, yet again, this empire was definitely on its last legs by 1453 when the Ottomans invaded and took Constantinople, which I'm also bitter about. As yeah, it should be part of Rome. No. The things, and it of course became the hub of Eastern Orthodox Christianity as well. Of course, the Hagia Sophia before they turned it into a mosque, and then what it is today, it's like just a tourist attraction now. But before that, it was a church, of course, or Saint Sophia, I believe. Hagia Sophia. That was the point. And you had a good 1,000 plus years of Byzantine Empire. But as I say, if you look at the maps of the Byzantine Empire, it started off quite well. You had a good chunk, but as you get into like 12th century, the Turks had basically taken all of Anatolia. And I mean, when they didn't get support from anyone in the west to keep Anatolia or anything really. See, you did have a good bit where they had like Greece, and they had Anatolia, and they had like the Holy Land, Palestine and the Levant, like Syria, Cyprus. This is a long time ago. This is Byzantine Empire at the death of Justinian I, 565 AD. They had Egypt there, Alexandria, another great city, lost, and then the Ottomans took over a lot of this. They took all of it really. But thing is, like they could have tried to save it really. If they'd wanted to, they could have tried to save it, because they had a long time. It wasn't like the Turks just rocked up one day and then the whole of Anatolia was gone. It was like a good bit of Anatolia has gone there. Antioch as well was a Christian city for a long time. They were all lost. Like they all went. And so the Byzantine Empire was a bit of a sad one. They had a good run, but they didn't. They had a good time, like 1,500 when Justinian was a good ruler, as was Constantine. And of course, when you had the fall of the Western Empire, it made it harder for Byzantium to continue from that point. You know, let's see, in 1025 here, it's got a good bit of land there, but it all goes downhill so quickly. It all goes downhill so quickly for the Byzantine Empire, and I mean, they could have seen it. It was never gonna last for too long, you know, really. Constantine the 11th was the last emperor. Yeah, as I say, it's a great loss. It was a bad loss for the Orthodox world and the Greeks. I mean, especially since after that, the Ottomans invaded Greece, and I mean, so that makes it even worse. Not only did they lose their favorite city, their holy city, basically, but they also lost their own country for a while to the Turks. So yeah, and I was gonna say Persian Empire, but shall we be more specific and say the Achaemenid Empire, the first Achaemenid Empire? I did want to say Persian Empire, but I was also considering Macedonian Empire to talk about for the last one, but Macedonian Empire under Alexander the Great, of course, didn't last terribly long, and then, of course, after his death, the thing is, he only really conquered all these countries, and then all of a sudden, bam, he dies, 33, and yeah, and then basically he didn't have enough time to establish like dominant rule in those areas, so a lot of them just ended up losing, and he left no heir. He left no heir to the empire, so when he died, all his friends ended up just squabbling over who should rule what. And of course, he had Ptolemy. He was probably the most successful of Alexander's disciples, his followers, his friends. Of course, he took over rule in Egypt, and he set up a legacy of rule in Egypt that lasts for 300 years. I mean, Cleopatra was a descendant of Ptolemy. So, yeah, yes, Cleopatra was Greek. She was Macedonian, descendant of Shemaiah. Even though everyone wants to say she's black or whatever, but that's beside the point. And so, I mean, that's the one success from the Macedonian. Of course, I'm not trying to take away from the exploits of Alexander in any way, but okay, we'll go on to the empire that he ends. One of the Achaemenid Empire. Of course, some people call it the Persian Empire. Of course, founded by Cyrus the Great in 550 BC and ended by a motherfucking boy, Alexander the Great, in 330 BC. And of course, the great battles you had there. You had Gargamella, effectively ended Persia's dominance. I mean, Persia were the big kahuna in the area, really. Like, and of course, Alexander. It's great that he ended the first Achaemenid Empire. It was kind of revenge for. It was one of these things the Greeks had wanted to do, is to get back at Persia, the Persians, and for what not what Darius had done, Xerxes had done. Yeah, for Darius, I'm thinking there was a different Darius. Darius the Third was the one that died. Was the last ruler of the Achaemenid Empire, and he was actually killed by one of his cousins, I believe. That is why Bacchus, not Bacchus. And of course he actually fled. I think if Alexander had Bessus, yes, killed Darius and took the regal name Artaxerxes V, began calling himself King of Asia. So yeah, that was a bit of a weird one. Of course, after Gargamella, he sort of ran off, and then so Darius runs off after the Battle of Gargamella. I mean, he's been defeated. There's no point in him staying there and getting captured and possibly killed, is what he's thinking. And he thinks maybe you can have some kind of resistance, maybe if you if he stays alive. Maybe he doesn't think he's gonna stay alive anyway. But of course he doesn't. He dies 1 year later after Gaugamela, pretty much. And apparently he goes to Erbil in Iraq. I don't know how much you can take that as a... And of course Persepolis was burned by... there's rumours who burned Persepolis. What's the point? You've conquered this place. What's the point in burning down the capital of Persia? And Darius is defeated. He then flees, knowing he's lost. But actually, one of these things is that I don't think Alexander would have killed Darius. He would have been, or maybe he would have, but he treated his family very good. I remember that he treated Darius's family, the Persian royal family, very well, as if they were his own family. In fact, because Alexander could be brutal. He was brutal in battle, and he turned Thebes to rubble. So he did it to the Greeks, but apparently he didn't want to do it to a Persian royal family. I guess he had more respect. He thought this was a kingly action. A kingly action, like you know what I mean. Like a statesman, like diplomatic of him not to kill the family or treat them nicely, at least not sell them off to slavery or whatever, like a lot of people would do. I mean, in those days that was the common thing to do, kind of. But Alexander was great. Obviously, he's great. The Achaemenid Empire is an interesting one. Is a good one. It actually, of course, the Greeks and the Macedonians, Greek Macedonians, they all borrowed a lot from Persian culture. Of course, but then the Persians were also borrowed from their predecessors and other people in the regions, like the Babylonians and the Sumerians and all that stuff. And I mean, there's so many different... That's why you've got a distinguished Persian Empire and Achaemenid Empire, because there were so many empires in this little spot and like around Babylonia, the cradle of civilization, really. And I mean, the Persians didn't necessarily own it. All these civilizations weren't Persian, like in nature necessarily. They weren't ethnic Persians to say. Of course, Achaemenid Empire, that was Persian, but that also borrowed from its predecessors in the area, which also led a lot to the Persian culture, as did it to Greek culture as well. But of course, they had a different view of things like kingship and stuff, which in the end annoyed some of Alexander's men, because they thought he was becoming this Eastern god king kind of thing, with people groveling before him, which is a lot like what we had in medieval Europe. This kind of was more similar to like a Persian kind of king. This kind of idea of godly kingship is which they had in medieval Europe was like a Persian, more of a Persian thing rather than a Greek kind of idea. So the of course, I'm not saying ancient Greek culture and everything all came from Persia, but they certainly took ideas from it, and so that's what best cultures will do: take the good things from others and so on. And I was gonna say honorable mentions, but yeah, I could have talked about a lot of other empires here. As I said, I've talked quite a lot about Macedonia and Alexander the Great anyway, but that's just because that's something I know somewhat about, whereas I don't really know that much about the Achaemenid Empire. I guess I've never studied Persian Empire, Persia specifically, whereas I did study Alexander and Roman Empire. Although I didn't want to write about the Roman Empire, just because everyone talks about the Roman Empire, and also it's like I talked about Byzantine Empire, which is continuation of the Roman Empire in the West, but of course it's different, separate. Basically Greek Romans, which is cool by me. It's fine by me, although I don't necessarily know more about that than the classical age, the heyday of the Roman Empire. Your Julius Caesars, and Augustus, Pax Romana, all that good stuff. But this has been 5 empires that no longer exist. Maybe I'll change the title to something else. And if there's any of the historical related anything kind of topics I should talk about, if I know somewhat about it and I can talk about it, then cool, I will. I want to do more about Alexander and Mark Antony. I'm not sure. Maybe people on that don't like Mark Antony. Don't necessarily know lots about him, so maybe I'll be reading more Plutarch. Maybe that's one thing I can do. But this has gone on for too long. But peace out. Dios Volt. No. Elia Acta. Veni Vidi Vici. Good day, man.
لك الله يسعد لي صباحي. الله يسعد لي صباحك يا بيت الكل يا سوريا. صباح الخير.